Hi there. Again, this is my response to discussion 2, which of course, got pretty downright personal. I really could have gone deeper into it. I just would have probably written you a novel, and with a discussion board, I don't know exactly if you would want something that long. I had mentioned going into when I went into first grade, and I had problems. Not so much what I can remember. I don't remember not knowing words. Like I could read them, but it was when I would read, like most beginner readers do. They read like this, and I felt like I was getting out of breath. And I think it was because maybe at that point and in that time and in first grade, we don't really understand punctuation. We don't really understand where we need to take a pause. We don't really understand where we need to stop and think about what we're reading. Because what a lot of the students don't understand is that the punctuation there is that it's there for a reason to sit with a comma, semicolon, period, exclamation point, question mark, any of those, that we stop and we think about what is it saying. And that was one of the building blocks that I was missing, because if I didn't understand what it was saying, of course I wouldn't understand the parts of a story, the components of a story, compare and contrast, which we know is it's not easy. There's just a lot of things that I don't remember. It's really strange. I don't really remember a lot as far as, I can just remember struggling with the oral reading in first and second grade, but my teachers didn't really have anything negative to say at that time about my retell. Most of it was just my fluency at that moment. So I have no ill regard to those teachers. They said I remembered what I was reading, I knew my words, I just struggled with fluency. Third grade was a nightmare as I went into that. She was a very unique person, to say it nicely. She, it's like I didn't really absorb anything. We didn't do anything fun. And I'll be really personal. She was an alcoholic. I don't remember science with her. I don't remember learning any social studies with her. I remember math. I liked math at that time. There was something with numbers, and she was good at teaching that. But as far as reading and reading groups and all of that, I know that year. I remember I lived in Northern Virginia, and there was probably about 30 kids in my class. So when I moved to North Carolina, and there would be teachers talking about, oh my gosh, I have more than 22. I'm thinking, that's not that big. And when I started teaching, I had 23 in my class, and I was a first year teacher with a career change. I didn't see it as any big whoop, but 30 kids in a class, I don't remember anybody being a behavioral problem, but it just seemed like she was not a happy teacher. And I remember copying a lot of sentences. And I'm one that I have to hear it, see it, and do it. So if she wasn't really teaching and she was just turn to page 51, copy these sentences, well, what's your reasoning behind that? Where is that making me a better reader? So that is where I feel like I lost the building block of retell, parts of a story, the overall comprehension components that we need in order to really fully understand, especially as we get to more difficult texts. And at that time, there was really no level readers. It was just I don't know how she paired us up, within our groups, because that was an era of the high class kids that are in the higher classes because they're AIG level, the mid-level class, and then the low class. And I was in the mid-level class. I wasn't a really bad student, but I wasn't great at that time. Fourth grade, yeah, there were some issues, but I guess she didn't see it as being really alarming because her name was Mrs. Hancock. And I remember she worked with me a lot and I did okay. But as far as when she would have a parent-teacher conference with my mom, which even then it was required 2 times a year, she didn't really bring up any alarming things. Just at that time, my ADHD was showing and I was forgetting to turn in things. So that was the main focus was getting my homework in and my classwork in, and not so much what my reading struggles were. I don't remember, there was no reading assessments or anything like that. It was just like standard reading assignments, reading groups, stuff like that. And then fifth grade being my saving grace. My teacher, her name is Missy Chambers. I actually keep in touch with her. She really noticed something missing. She knew that I was not per se a dumb child, or challenged child. She just saw that I struggled somewhere. Something wasn't clicking. There was that there really wasn't, there wasn't a lot of differentiation. They didn't really talk about universal design of learning and how everybody learns different. But she knew that I learned differently. And then my mom reading the Women's Day magazine article, and they met in the middle. There was a communication journal every day, reminders about turning my homework in, lots and lots of tests to test me with ADHD and also a processing delay. There are still times now I will pause and I will have an issue processing something. So I have to put a lot of deep thought into things and take my time to think. Sixth grade was great. Seventh grade was when we figured out my comprehension level. My teacher then, her name was Mrs. Bishop, very young teacher again. Seemed like the young one still had definitely the passion behind it. And she just noticed that now that we were reading novels, and I remember the book we were reading The Red Pony by John Steinbeck. And I struggled through that book, and it wasn't even a big book. I don't know what it was. I've read it since again, and I loved it. I even would love to have a class set of it, but something was wrong. And again, my mom and she said, well, let's see what's going on with her. And my mom took me to an outward source, and I was tutored through Sylvan Center. And we found out I had a third grade comprehension level, but my fluency at that time was that of a collegiate level student in seventh grade. Now I was in plays, so reading lines makes it easy to read books. Amazing how I can memorize lines, but I couldn't remember and retell a story. I don't know. I'm wired different. But ever since then, it's okay. I've got to keep at it. If I stop reading, then I start, the old saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. So it's been pretty good. English was one of my favorite subjects. It's really funny. It kind of created its Tacoma. Math started getting hard. Somebody just said, well, she's not very good at math, and so I believed it. And then it was almost a reversal. Loved math at one time, not so much after that. It was kind of after geometry I just lost. lost it. I'm better at statistics and algebraic thinking. So, but that's my story. No, I'm not mad at those teachers. I'm disappointed in my third grade teacher. I think she let a lot of us down. The other teachers seemed to focus on other things, such as fourth grade and turning in homework. First and second grade, it wasn't that bad. It was just they were worried about my fluency. And sixth grade, I didn't have any problems at all. It was weird. It's like it was a good year. It must have been just the lessons that my one teacher had written, and I can't remember her name. I remember a lot of teachers, but there are some I'm starting to forget. And then seventh grade, whenever we finally had that aha moment, after that, reading became a passion. And my genres have changed through the years from suspense and horror, Stephen King, Dean Koontz, to Nicholas Sparks, which every woman loves him. And now I'm more into like personal development. Rachel Hollis, Brendan Bouchard, Lisa TerKeurst, Lisa Leonard. And there's some really good, some good ones out there. So that's about it. I can have rambled on for 11 minutes. So like I said, I could write a book. So have a good one. Again, thank you for everything, and still trying to work on that final editing. It's just editing. So I'm getting it to you. Maybe if you could send me a little message on when's the absolute latest that I can have it to you before you have to have grades in, just in case my computer gives me more problems. It has not restarted itself again since, but I haven't exactly logged into it either. So I'll keep you posted. Have a good night.